Hey guys, it's National Master Kevin Yang back at it with a second video of the game that I played against our fellow chess club member for the week. So I was black this time, and okay, let's flip the board. So my opponent played e4, and I promised to come up with something different. I played b6, and what this does, this move has one intention: bring the bishop out and develop quickly on this side and try to make a counter in the center without really disturbing. So let me illustrate that. So d4 is correct. I get the bishop out. I attack this pawn. The long gunner, right? Goes long distance. Knight c3, perfectly fine. The theoretical move, actually, e6. My purpose here is to get this bishop out. Pin the knight, right? Create a pin, and if you need more help on maybe pins, just simply, make a comment, maybe suggest, maybe ask me how to work on these tactical puzzles, and it's all about recognizing these patterns. So I would like, in this position, I want to be able to take this pawn for free. By taking this pawn, I'm going to gain control in the center, right? Right now, this guy is challenging it, and we don't want that. We want to eliminate this guy, or we want to try to eliminate this guy. And we know that he is protected by this guy, our knight, the white knight. So we want to first eliminate him, and then eliminate him. So exactly what I do. My opponent brings the knight out, bishop b4. And this is exactly what I want to do. I want to take, I want to take. So my opponent plays a3, shooing the bishop away, right? Seems perfectly logical, but I take, and take, right? So I gain the pawn. So let's go back to this position. Now that we know that I have a plan to take and take, what should white do? Well, you have to realize that this guy is this pawn's only defender. So the simple option is to protect him. And this comes with this bishop move. Bishop d3. Protects the pawn and develops the piece, gets the king ready for castling, maybe puts the queen up, and maybe you got a game. So in the game, a3 happened. I was able to snatch off the pawn. The bishop came out one move too late, and I retreated. I wanted to keep it, right? Keep the pressure, keep controlling squares. So bishop f4, really good move. Controlling the center, just like in general, targeting the center, and really developing the bishop to an active square. That's what I like to see. I like to see that, our pieces are looking in a good direction, right? At least you have something to do here. So, for example, if you develop the bishop here, then it wouldn't be so great. But if you decided you wanted to play this and open it up with pawn up and pawn up to open up this diagonal, then you'd have a good idea. So instead, bishop f4, really good move. Knight f6, castles, rook e1, d6, rook b1. Now, this is really good. I gotta say, this is outstanding play. Rook b1. This move requires deep understanding. And it's easy to say, okay, I can play this move. but the idea behind it is something that it's very complex, because rook b1 puts you on a somewhat open file and be able to potentially look into the eyes of this bishop, right? So first you think, what is white's plan here? And I guess this is not very simple, because first of all, you have to realize that I have these somewhat weird looking pawns, right? And black's got these great pawns, no doubled, and it looks all great. So how do I break this fortress? Well, the plan here would be c4, c5, and try to break this fortress, right? Try to break this fortress. Or even a4, a5, try to break this fortress. And at the same time, help your pawns out, right? In this position, the white pawns, right, they don't look as great in structure as the black pawns. Like, for example, right, you take a building like, let's say, the Eiffel Tower, right? The Eiffel Tower has support on all sides, right? It isn't going to have like a double rigid structure here and no support here, right? So what you want to do in chess, you want to have a good structure. You want to be able to, sometimes you might get a bad structure, but you should be able to look for improving such structure. And I guess one really hidden idea is pawn pushing, right? A lot of people overestimate this idea because it may seem useless. Like you get here and you capture, and you didn't achieve much, but you actually achieved a lot. So let's say, for example, rook e8, a4, rook e7, a5, right? Now this pawn, it doesn't have to capture right away. You could actually just play pawn up, right? So let's say rook e8, bam, rook e7, bam. And now there's going to be a double threat on this pawn, right? So that's what's going to be really powerful about this plan, is that these pawns, which were once looking all useless, right? They couldn't do much here. They were isolated from one another, and now they are able to achieve things, right? So that's something that it's a really hard plan to see, but if you see it, that really signals that you've found ways to improve. You've discovered more, right? You've looked at your opponent's threats and you've taken thought into what you can do, and that's what really helps. That's the thinking, being able to really find your possibilities is something. So, okay, let's go back to the game. I played knight out, just develop the piece, right? Maybe in the future be able to push one of these pawns, right? I have all these possibilities. But in this opening, what black does is creates what's called a hedgehog system. So it's going to sort of look like a hedgehog, but black's going to have all the pawns so that there's no weaknesses in the position. Queen e2, queen c8, just small improvements, right? And maybe one day I'm going to push here. Bishop g5, rook e8, just small improvements. c4. Now I played e5, and this was quite bold from my part. I wasn't sure if it was the best move, but I decided, you know what? If I want to strike, if I want to hit the bowling pin, if I want to hit an ace, it's got to be now. So I pushed. So bam, bam. And now, if takes, right? And I'm going to be threatening the bishop and the queen. So let's say the queen moves here, and then I'm going to bring in the knight. So that's my activity, right? Takes, the bishop comes in. So that was my plan. But after I took, I encouraged our fellow chess club member to think about it here, because it's not obvious. There are so many possibilities in this position. You could consider moving here, right? Or right here. I told my opponent to think. There are so many possibilities. In fact, let's look at those. White could ignore it, right? Simple as that. White could take the pawn. Simple as that. White could take the knight. Also an interesting thought. And white could move away the queen. Also an interesting thought. But we have to realize the first step when judging an opponent's move is, why'd they play it, right? So obviously I played it to open myself. One day, just liberate myself, free the border. So this is what I did. And um, yeah, so what happened was, if white pushes, let's say, now I get this going. Fork, and after bishop takes, rook takes. And I'm going to get the bishop for free. So that was my goal, but it's very hard to see that, right? So the other alternative is calculating taking pawn. Knight takes, rook takes, and getting the bishop back. And I think this is fine for white, but this pawn structure is the thing that's holding white back, right? So, okay. Another alternative we discussed was taking this knight, right? So if I take, right, then I would have, if take here, then the knight would take, and white will get back the pawn. But if bishop takes, which was what I was planning, queen takes, and pawn takes e5. And now I think you can play something like c5, right? So c5, you'll be able to break the pawn structure, like I said before. Remember how I said a4, a5 was one? Well, now white gets the idea, the same idea, just in a different position, and it still works. So, okay, knight takes, so as we said before, knight takes, rook takes, bishop e3. Looks okay, right? So all these opportunities that I explained, and in fact, bishop takes f6 is the best after takes, bishop takes, queen takes, and pawn takes. Because you'll be able to play this, because you'll be able to get the rooks out. But it's hard to evaluate from such a position, right? As we saw, chess can be so complex because from this position, in your mind, you paint yourself something like this, right? Or it could be you paint yourself this position. But all those things have to come in the mind. And so that's what is complicated about the game. So, okay. Queen d2 was played. Played knight takes f3. Pawn could take it, but it didn't happen. King f1, queen d7, and it came all suicide. And I sort of got a gift from this game. So I guess one of the main points was this move, right? The opening principles, getting the bishop, sneaking up, right? And later on, it was really good until really this crucial moment. So I would say that's the main sorts of reflections. But thank you for listening.